Thank you everyone for joining us today for this exciting panel to celebrate International Women's Day. My name is Claudia Krywiak and I'm the CEO of the Ontario Centre of Innovation, or OCI as many of you refer to us and we refer to ourselves. As an organization, this is an important opportunity for OCI to raise awareness for the progress made towards achieving gender equality, while acknowledging that there is still more work to be done. This year's United Women theme is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. And in keeping with that theme, OCI and OneEleven are thrilled to be hosting this panel discussion on connecting women in technology that will showcase some tremendous female leaders from across our ecosystem and highlight some of the ways and avenues that we can collectively give women in the tech sector a seat at the table and see ourselves represented in those that we look up to in leadership positions. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the land on which we gather. OCI's work takes place on traditional Indigenous territories across the province. We acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory now called Ontario. We are thankful to be able to work and live in these territories. We are thankful to the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. OCI would also like to acknowledge that its main office is in Toronto and on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with the multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Acknowledging traditional Indigenous territories is one way to recognize contemporary and historical Indigenous presence and land rights. It is a small step towards dismantling the continued impacts of colonialism and undoing Indigenous erasure in our everyday lives. This afternoon's session features organizations building networks that better connect women working in tech. So let's get into it. To kick us off, I would like to welcome the Honorable Caroline Mulroney, Minister of Transportation in Ontario, who would like to bring greetings on behalf of the Ontario government.
Thank you for the kind introduction. And I also want to thank the entire Ontario Centre of Innovation team for organizing this important event. Today's panel is an excellent chance to talk about how we can work together to support women navigating a career in the tech industry. And there is no better time to have this conversation than on International Women's Day. Each year, this day is an opportunity to look back on how far women have come and to look ahead and see how far we can go. It fills me with pride to see so many remarkable women paving the way for the next generation of strong, determined, and passionate female leaders. As a mother myself of 2 girls, International Women's Day means a lot to me. Building a better, brighter future for my children and yours is a big reason why I got into politics. I believe that equality of opportunity is essential, and so does our entire government. That's why we're focused on making a meaningful difference and creating more opportunities, whether it be for women in tech, women in transportation, or women in trades. By doing this, we'll not only have a more diverse workplace filled with more voices in the room, but we will find even more talent and skill that lives right here in Ontario. I know there's no shortage of talented and qualified women with the skills, education, and experience to take on new and exciting careers in the tech industry and beyond. And I know that together we will take charge and be the true creators of change. So thank you once again for inviting me to speak with you today. And without further ado, I will pass it over to the panel discussion on connecting women in tech.
Thank you, Minister Mulroney. In this afternoon's discussion, we will hear from some leaders spanning three to four organizations, including representatives from networks that support women entrepreneurs, such as Rhyze, which is a Windsor-Essex network of organizations that are women-led, Innovation Guelph, Rhyze Ventures, as well as Loblaw, who have created their own Women in Tech group. So there's going to be an opportunity for lots of robust discussion and great insights from this panel. To get us started, why don't we begin with an introduction to all of the panelists. So starting with Lee, can each panelist go around and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about your organization and how you support women in technology? Lee?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lee McGrath. I'm the Program Director for the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy here in Windsor-Essex. Rhyze is a network of organizations founded by Invest Windsor-Essex and led by the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Center. It functions in partnership with the University of Windsor's Epicenter, Workforce Windsor-Essex, We Tech Alliance, Build a Dream, and the Windsor-Essex Capital Angel Network. Together, we work to ensure women in our region have access to the business supports they need to start and grow businesses. Along with the fundamentals of starting a business, the Windsor region is also home to one of the regional technology development sites as part of Ontario's Autonomous Vehicle Innovation Network, or AVEN as we call it. The VR Cave is a high-fidelity simulation environment for testing of automotive technologies and digital twinning that supports the pre-build of everything from parts, manufacturers' floors, and most recently, something we're really proud of, Habitat for Humanity's first 3D printed home in Canada. The VR Cave is publicly accessible, and it provides a platform for women entrepreneurs to develop their prototypes in a virtual setting, and it is open to all of Ontario, so please connect with us if you're interested.
Great, thank you, Lee. Allison?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Allison Crumbley, CEO of Innovation Guelph, and we are one of Ontario's regional innovation centers. So we provide mentorship and business support programs and services that help innovative businesses to start, grow, and thrive. So within our portfolio, we have programs that were created by women entrepreneurs for women entrepreneurs, including a stream that focuses on STEM, agri-innovation, and clean tech businesses.
Great, thank you, Allison. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Sarah Jetta. I am the Senior Director of Innovation and Strategy at Loblaw. Loblaw is a large organization that consists of over 200,000 colleagues. We have a large representation across our market and discount stores, as well as pharmacy, banking, healthcare, and a number of other services that we provide to Canadians all across the country. Within our innovation team, we're responsible for disruption. We work very closely with OneEleven. It's one of our partnerships in our external ecosystem. I'm very proud and pleased to be here, and we have so much to share in terms of women in technology, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Great, thank you. And Neelam?
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here as well. I'm Neelam Kangora. I'm part of the Loblaw Technology and Analytics Leadership Team. Sarah and I work very closely together. I lead store and colleague solutions, so all of our technologies to enable our 2,400 retail locations across Canada, our distribution centers, and our store support offices. In addition to my day job, I am a strong advocate for our Enterprise Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. I am also a strong advocate for our Women in Technology committee that we have within our technology and analytics team. Our WIT, as we call them, our WIT committee is very actively working on creating a space where women in technology can thrive. They focus on recruitment and retention. They focus on women in STEM panels and discussions, both internally and externally. We have a variety of internal events with guest speakers and partnerships with several organizations that support our mission, and we support their mission as well. We've also, as an enterprise, committed to certain representation goals, and within technology as well, we've committed to representation goals as well. So happy to be here and talk about all of the things that we're doing within Loblaw, and hear what some others are doing as well, and share some learnings across.
Great, right. Thank you, everyone. I think that's everyone. So why don't we get started? To start the discussion, in your introductions, all of you spoke on how your organizations work with tech companies and specifically some of the supports that you provide to female entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups. So first question, maybe starting with you, Allison. What does Innovation Guelph look for in the tech companies that it invests in or supports?
Mm-hmm. So we really look for high potential startups and small to medium businesses that are ready to scale. We also want them to be sort of beyond the ideation phase, and they need to be open to coaching, because what we have is it's an 8-month program, which is federally funded, and it really helps to connect them with mentors and industry specialists that can help them with their specific opportunities and needs. So it's a custom designed program. And what we really enjoy with this is the fact that they get to build a network with like-minded women. So they get a great peer group to work with as well. And each cohort concludes with a pitch competition for an award of at least $10,000 to be used to support and promote their business. So really looking for creative, exciting businesses that are ready to grow and are excited and willing to have coaching.
Great. Lee, the Rhyze network provides a very robust network of supports for tech entrepreneurs. What kind of companies are the members of the network looking for in terms of for investment opportunities or companies that they can support in other ways?
Oh, thank you for the question. So while our strategy supports women, and the West strategy in Windsor-Essex supports women in all aspects of entrepreneurship, from from early pre-startup ideation right through scale up. We really are here to support and encourage women to pursue entrepreneurial endeavors in emerging technology sectors. Along with programming that's delivered on the fundamentals of starting the business, we host a number of events and opportunities. The first one we always host annually is the Emerging Technologies and Automation Conference and Trade Show in Windsor-Essex. And to participate in that, if you're a woman, you do need to be in the stage of actually building and showing revenue. But that opportunity is part of what we offer through our West programming, and it brings together international leaders in automation, technology, and advanced manufacturing, agri-tech, and supply chain. So in partner with the West funding, we ensure access to that event for women entrepreneurs to exhibit and participate. Of course, the last 2 years, it's been held virtually, but hopefully in October of 2022, it'll be in person. The other really couple of other things that we are looking for is along with that initiative, Emerging Technologies, we have a partnership through the support of the U.S. Consulate in Toronto for the region to have joined forces with Women in Mobility Detroit to encourage women to join a sector that's significantly underrepresented. So we are fairly open to different types of businesses. We don't limit ourselves to one type of business, but like Guelph, we really are looking for people who are looking to collaborate, who are looking who are coachable, and who are looking to partner.
Great, thanks, Lee. So Neelam, Sarah, at Loblaw, there's some great work that has been done in terms of not only outreach to the to entrepreneurs in the tech community, but some very strategic initiatives and collaborations that you've done in the tech sector. What do you look for at Loblaw in terms of the companies specifically tech startups that you're looking to work with?
Yeah, I can start, Sarah, and maybe you can jump in as well. I think we are a very large and complex organization, and we span across the country. So we definitely are doing a bunch of different things. And I would say, first and foremost, we do look for a mix of national partners that can support our scale, but also, partners that are unique to certain communities or certain regions that can support the specific needs of that community. And I think we've partnered in a few ways. So one would be just enabling women-owned businesses or minority-owned businesses within our retail space itself. So we've partnered with organizations to host supplier workshops or information sessions to help explain how our company operates and how we can enable women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses to have space on our shelves and to have an opportunity to leverage our size and scale. So I think that's one way in which we've partnered with organizations. Another way is we've partnered with organizations that are running pitch competitions or that are enabling small-owned businesses or startups, tech startups to get out there. And we've supported in a few ways. We've supported with pitch coaching. We've supported with workshops because we have such a strong and large technology and digital team. We've supported with workshops to help those startups prepare for their pitches. And we've done those, throughout the year a number of times with different organizations. So that's another way in which we're helping to enable small startups and tech startups to achieve the funding that they need. And then we've also provided funding ourselves. And where we look for partners in that sense is if there's some core values or missions that we have alignment on or problems that we're looking to solve that are similar, then we may partner in that way and provide some funding ourselves. So I would say, helping tech startups and small businesses and minority-owned businesses get onto our shelves and into our stores, helping to support tech startups as they prepare for pitches through other avenues, and then supporting from a financial perspective ourselves. So, we know we are a large organization, and sometimes just giving money is not always the best way to get to the root of help. And so we try to come at it from different angles to make sure that we're enabling as much as we can.
Yeah, and just to jump in and add to that, what Neelam said is that my team is responsible for working with various different partnerships across academia, startups, scale-ups, and we do our best to ensure that there's diversity and flexibility across our partnerships. It's important for us to work with those that are underrepresented, to have people that have different perspectives, different life experiences that bring diversity of thought. If our goal is to touch a very large crowd, or a large big customer base, then we need to ensure that we have diversity across our different partnerships and how we sort of touch the customers across the country. So apart from what Neelam was saying, I would agree that it's important for us to have a different variety and a different range of different types of partners that bring diversity and thought to the table.
So across all of your organizations, you have worked with a diversity of tech startups, a diversity of companies from large to small companies. Specifically looking at women entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to female leaders that are looking to enter the tech sector, and specifically are looking to succeed in the tech sector? Allison?
I would say one of the first things is to definitely network. So having that peer support in place is definitely beneficial. Join groups within your industry, find a mentor if you can. There's definitely a lot of resources out there. So having someone else to look up to that has been through it before and that can help guide you is definitely very advantageous. And have confidence in yourself. I promise you that all of us have been in a situation before where you walk in and you're like, should I be here? Am I good enough for this? And yes, you are. So remember that you are, just have that confidence and know that yes, you are in the right place.
Thanks, Allison. I think we've all suffered, myself certainly, from what people call imposter syndrome. And it's funny because I once saw a TED talk by someone who I very much admired and who, like, in my perspective, had made it. And they were talking about imposter syndrome and how they suffered from it. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. But I think that the confidence piece is really important, and the networking piece is absolutely critical. Lee, what advice would you give to female leaders looking to enter the tech sector?
Similar to Allison, I think believing in yourself is really important. I think those, many of us I spent a big part of my career working in a male-dominated industry in pharmaceutical, often was the only woman at the table. And that was intimidating at times, but I learned to find my voice, and finding your voice, I think, is a really important part of entrepreneurship as well. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you're the only woman at the table sometimes. You're the only woman pitching sometimes. And I really think that, like Allison said, looking for mentorship from women who have gone before you, who have been successful. There are so many organizations in every community that support that. So connect yourself with community leaders and coaches. And I really think sometimes we talk ourselves out of entering technology fields and working in industries that are maybe not, as common for women or as usual places for women to end up. But I think it's a really important part of developing your own persona and your own perspective. So that my advice is, don't be shy.
Neelam?
Yeah, I think I agree 100% with everything Allison and Lee have shared already. And my first thought would also be along those same lines, like build your support system. I think external and structural barriers are real things. Internalized beliefs that we all have about ourselves and imposter syndrome, those are real things as well, and everybody has them. And I think the best way to address them for yourself is with a really strong support network that's diverse. Some folks perhaps that have been on a similar journey as yourself, and some folks that maybe have been on a completely different journey that can provide a different perspective. And I think just to add maybe a little more to the question, I would say another area that I would focus on probably is just your own learning. Like, don't stop learning, don't stop refining your business case, don't stop refining your approach. Use your support system to gather feedback, take that feedback, don't take it personal, accept it as constructive, and refine how you're putting yourself out there, how you're pitching your ideas, and continue to learn and refine as you move forward. So I would say support system and don't stop learning and refining and taking the feedback.
Sarah?
Agree with what everyone has said. Great feedback. My advice to women considering a career in the tech industry would be just stop considering it and just go for it. I think we need to stop overthinking ourselves, and this whole notion of being in the tech industry requires someone to have a tech degree or a tech background. I think are starting to become more and more obsolete. It's about experience. Tech is advancing so rapidly that everyone is learning together. And I think that our voice, our diversity of thought, and the talent that we all bring to the table is enough, and we're all needed. I think that's pretty much critical, full stop. Like, just go for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think a common theme in everyone's guidance and advice, or common themes are kind of confidence, and confidence speaks to actually going for it, and then also the importance of networks. One of the things in my career that was an aha moment for me, specifically around the network piece and why networks are important. Networks are important not only because they will introduce you to people who can introduce you to opportunities, which is absolutely critical, but they can also introduce you to mentors, and even more importantly, to sponsors. And this is something that I realized in my career, especially in the tech sector, that men actually do quite well. which is the whole notion of sponsorship. So you identify someone in your network that is up and coming, and they have a lot of confidence and potential. And not only do you mentor them, but you actually sponsor them and provide them with opportunities. And that was an aha moment for me in two respects. Not only how can sponsorship benefit me, but how I, as a woman leader, can actually give back to the community, and in a position of leadership, sponsor other women as well. And so I think that's also a good segue to my next question. We've talked about kind of what can women do through the advice that we're giving women, but what can companies of all sizes do to actually help women thrive in the tech sector? And so for this, maybe I'll start with Loblaw. And Sarah, maybe we can start with you. What are some of the things that large organizations can do to help women thrive in the tech sector?
I would say, and we're certainly doing that in this area, is just support ongoing learning to close that skills gap. I think there sometimes is a skills gap, or as women we feel like we're lacking some skills, especially in women in tech. It's a male dominated industry, and certainly we're evolving, but there's a lot more work to do, and there's a lot more progress that we can make. So I think that large organizations like ourselves, we're offering a lot of that. We're recruiting a lot more women in leadership positions. Our organizations within Women in Technology, one of our goals is to have women management representation at all levels. And certainly as an organization as a whole, that's something that we've surpassed in terms of women in these executive leadership positions. And then thirdly, I would say is just to be very flexible. We as women have very, we have our job, our day-to-day, but then we also have our children, and in some cases other elderly family members, and we just need to be much more open and flexible to not just women, but all people alike.
Neelam, would you like to add something from your perspective working at Loblaw?
Yeah, I think as Sarah mentioned, we are doing many things to support women in tech at Loblaw, and there was a time last year where I was the only woman on the leadership, or the only executive on the technology leadership team, and I'm happy to say that has changed. And this year, we are at a much better ratio, and I think we just have to keep having the right conversations and keep pushing for change. We are very busy in our day-to-day operations of our jobs and our business, and we have to keep uncovering the biases where they exist and shining a light on them, and ensuring that we are breaking those where we see them happening, so that we create environments that all people can thrive, and that we can make sure that we have diversity across all levels. And Sarah mentioned that we do have goals, representation goals across our enterprise, which we announced today that we have achieved already in advance of our 2024 goal. And so we announced today that we're increasing those representation goals for women in management positions across our enterprise, and also within technology, we have the same goals. So I think continuing to have the conversations, continuing to recognize where we are in terms of representation and where we need to go and what those gaps are, looking for the right support and expertise in how we recruit and how we retain and how we develop our leaders is really important. So I think all of those things we are doing, and to me the biggest thing is keep shining the light on it, because it's very easy to become busy and lose track of some of those objectives. So continuing to have them top of mind at all times is very important.
Lee, through the work that you and your partners do, you work with many startup companies. What are some things that startup companies can do to help women thrive in the tech sector?
Well, I think it's really interesting because we work with women across many sectors. And, you know, obviously our goal in this organization is to build the pathway for technology startups. I think it's really important to have diversity of, if you're going to be starting a company and your advisors and mentors are all one sector or one narrow focus, I think that's problematic. I think you need to have some men at the table. I think you need to have women at the table. And I think you need to have the diversity of life span. So what is interesting to me is that I think we need to, when I think of building out a company, or when I think of what's important to building out a company, I think it's important to not only have senior people who've been in the industry for a long time at the table, but you need to have that fresh view and the new thoughts of people just maybe coming out of university. So don't limit yourself when you're choosing your team. Don't limit yourself when you're choosing your board, if you're going to, you know, set up a board. I think having a diverse opinion at the table creates an atmosphere of collaboration that you might not get if everybody at the table is saying, yes, I think that's a good idea. Yes, you should do that. I think you need to hear some challenges to what you're saying, only insofar as not to discourage you, but insofar as to move you forward. So that, I think there's so many different aspects to starting a business and growing a business that we have to keep in mind that requires multifaceted information lines. So that's what I would suggest.
Allison.
Yeah, so what I would say is that if you're recruiting women just to hit an arbitrary quota, that's not going to cut it. Even starting as the smallest of organizations, it's important to build it in your culture right from the beginning, right? So all of the things that the other panelists touched on, talking about having that training, or even including mentorship programs within your organization, having the flexibility. I've seen a lot of organizations start to include something like unconscious bias awareness training. So things like that can, just help create that culture right from the get-go, I think is the best way to start.
So we touched a little bit on some of the barriers that women in tech face. One of the large barriers that women tech entrepreneurs, especially founders that are looking to raise capital, face is actually access to capital. I have a statistic in front of me, and it's out of the US, but I think it's kind of representative of what's happening more broadly. But out of 150 billion invested by VCs, women-founded companies received less than $3.4 billion. And all of us working with tech entrepreneurs in this space see this every day. So maybe Allison, I know that Rhyze Ventures is doing some work to help address that gap. So maybe I can start with you. Can you talk a little bit about some of the barriers and what's available in terms of support for women tech entrepreneurs that are looking to raise capital?
Yeah, one of the things that you may find, especially if you've been and in your education and experience has been very much embedded in tech, you might not have the business skills. So a lot of our programming includes that part, Finance 101, putting your business in a perspective to understand what investors would be looking for. So what are the key things you need to be prepared to answer before you're pitching to them? And also, it's been interesting to see that there's a rise of funds being created specifically to support women-led businesses. So that's definitely, amazing to see, and we're very excited about that. But it's really about, giving them a whole, or how would you put it, making them more whole as a business and entrepreneur person, and completing that circle with their tech side and bringing business skills together. And then, of course, making the introductions through our networks.
Absolutely, and you mentioned that we are starting to see more VCs that are actually focused on female founders and founders from underrepresented groups. One that actually comes to mind is Rhyze Ventures, which was one of the first Canadian VCs that was founded by women and persons of color, that was focused specifically on investments in diverse, underrepresented, and I like this, underestimated entrepreneurs, because I think that's what we're talking about. Like, if we want to unlock the full power, the full potential of innovation, we need to focus on these underrepresented and underestimated groups. Lee, can you talk a little bit about some of the resources that are available in your region to help female founders increase their access to capital?
For sure. I think it's interesting because we have been having this conversation a lot lately. Access to capital seems to be one of the most important conversations that we're having. Windsor-Essex does have, and they are partners with us, the Windsor-Essex Capital Angel Network, which is now part of Equation, which is a more broad Ontario capital network. What we are doing right now is bolstering the support for that organization. It's a new young organization. So the Capital Network, Angel Network in Windsor-Essex is really a little bit underdeveloped at this time. We do have investors. We don't always have ways to connect investors to companies. And how do we sort that out? So that has been a big focus for us for the last 3 months, actually. We've been running some workshops, and as part of that, we also are looking at how do you value your business? How do you do the business evaluation piece? So through I think we're on our 3rd workshop now. We did a big workshop on forward thinking for business valuation, and then we did capital, how to access capital, and are you ready for an investor? I think the big thing is supporting companies to develop their pitch deck, develop their storyline, and sometimes, and I know this is controversial, but sometimes they say, are you really looking for an investor, or do you need to really increase your sales? I think that we have to also remember that a big part of raising capital is through selling your goods or selling your technology or partnering with other technology companies. So my whole philosophy when I'm meeting with women who are looking for investors, it's interesting. The first question I normally get asked is, how much money can you get me? How much money do you have? Where are the grants? How do I find funding? And I always take a deep breath and say, so where are your sales at? So, because I think in business, we also have to remember that if you give away too much of your company to investors, you lose some of the control. So that's a big decision that women and men both in startups have to make. They have to make that decision. How much of my organization that I've founded and I thought of and that I've worked on am I willing to give away? So sales is sometimes a delivery point for new funds. So
absolutely, that is a really, really important important point. Neelam, Loblaw has a women in kind of tech group. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and how it might provide support for women that are looking to raise capital or looking to access networks?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a very strong Women in Tech committee that's made up of volunteers that work in different roles across our technology team. And as I mentioned, our technology team is very large. We're over 1,000 people within our technology team. So we have a big team, and we have good representation, both from a gender perspective and from a racial perspective. So it's a really great team, and the Women in Tech group is focused on a number of things, as I mentioned kind of at the start. So there's a few pillars within the committee itself, and their focus, one of the pillars is really about recruitment and retention, how we find the right talent, how we retain that talent, what kind of development programs we have, what kind of training we put in place. There's a group that's focused on events and education. They're running internal events and external events. They're running training sessions on not necessarily just on diversity focused training, but also on training on specific technical skills, or even just on financial planning, or any sort of training that would be beneficial to the committee and to the colleagues across our technology team overall. And then there's also teams within Women in Tech that are focused on recognition. So we do a lot of work to recognize the talent that we have within technology. We put forward a lot of our really strong, great talent for awards within the industry and recognitions, either internally within our own organization or externally. And I think that's really important because everybody loves some great recognition, and it also is helpful to showcase externally that, you know, we do have great talent. And I think Loblaws is known as a retailer and a grocer, but we have a tremendous technology team and we have a tremendous technology practice within our organization. And so we want to recruit the best talent that's out there to help build our team up. And so I think the recognition has been really well received, and the WIT team does such a tremendous job of recognizing the talent and put so much effort and time into the nominations that they put forward, and I think that's been really beneficial overall for our team and for the talent across our team. And I think, you know, the ways in which we can support tech startups. We have done a number of things. We have hosted workshops for some tech startups on how to build a pitch from a business lens, not necessarily only from a tech lens. How we've run workshops on creating a digital business and how to establish a digital business. So I think we're using our skills, we're using our expertise and the knowledge that we have within to help educate others on how they could use those skills and how they could improve their pitches or improve their business ideas based on the knowledge and skills that we have. So I think that's been really effective. We've been doing that for a couple of years now, and we've gotten some really great feedback on that. And then also the supplier sessions that I had mentioned previously. That's another way that we educate tech startups and other startups in the retail industry on how to navigate our very complex environment and how to make their way into being a partner with us.
So Sarah, for the women tech founders in the audience today, or women that are just interested in engaging with Loblaw on tech and startup technologies, what's the best way to engage with Loblaw?
I would say, you know, specifically for my area, because within innovation, I have 3 different pillars, and one of them is focused on partnerships. We do a number of different things where we host events with various different types of partners, whether it's through academia or startups or scale-ups. We host pitch events, hackathons, but also just demo sessions. So various different types of partners, even those that are underrepresented and those that are minority, we give them a platform to share what their expertise is, what their skills are, what they can sort of bring to the table. So, you know, my team has a direct connection with our partners, and you know, we encourage folks to reach out through various mechanisms, whether it's directly to myself, but I've also had a number of partners reach out to me through just LinkedIn. We do a really good job pointing people to respective areas within the organization, and we're always open to hearing different skill sets and different technologies and solutions that are out there. We try our best to keep our eyes and ears open when it comes to these types of things.
So Lee, same question. If you, for female founders or women generally interested in engaging in tech activities in the Windsor-Essex region, how do they engage? What are the best points of entry for them?
So we have a number of them. So depending on where you're at, you know, we're really proud of the fact that the university and the college are really both active in building up and establishing women in STEM groups. So we have women in cybersecurity, we have women in mobility, we have other types of initiatives that really are there and set to help expose women to non-traditional sector opportunities, career pathways, entrepreneurial opportunities. But I think really important is to, just start somewhere. In the region, through the ecosystem, we have a large ecosystem, and we're here to support and ensure that the resources are there. One of the things I did want to mention is that one of the things that has been very big in Windsor-Essex and is growing, I think, across the country is FIRST Robotics. And FIRST Robotics is right now is still virtual, but they're going to be doing some in-person events, hopefully in the fall. It's an opportunity for young women to sort of explore technology and non-traditional roles within high school. So the FIRST Robotics program in Windsor-Essex is really not only a great entry point for students, but it's a great volunteer point. So if you're interested in connecting with like-minded people, sometimes you need to go out and volunteer in the areas that they might be working in. And FIRST Robotics in our area is huge. So I think accessing people in the network through the ecosystem is probably the easiest way to do it. We're pretty approachable. All of our websites have a contact us site. We're available on LinkedIn. We're available on Twitter. So I think just reaching out and taking that first step. Don't be intimidated. Just step in and see what happens.
So, Allison, same question. What's the best way for women tech entrepreneurs or women interested in tech to engage with Innovation Guelph?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so similar to what Lee was saying, we have a whole ecosystem here as well. So we are more than happy to speak with anybody who has any questions, because within Innovation Guelph, even though I spoke about the Rhyze Ventures program, there's so many other entry points depending on where you are in your phase of entering this area. So please, feel free to reach out. If you check our website, you can see all of the different programs and have all the different contacts in there, and just reach out. And if it's not something that we can handle here ourselves, or it seems outside of our realm, within our network, so the Business Center of Guelph Wellington, the Chamber of Commerce, depending on what it is you need, we can certainly help make those connections for you. And even outside, and with some of the other regional innovation centers, if it's something that falls under their expertise, again, we would happily send you in that direction. So we're just here to help with whatever you need.
So as we're coming up, I think to 1 o'clock, we have about 10 minutes left. And before I go to the last couple of questions to the panel, I also want to invite the audience, if anyone has any questions, just to put them in the chat. And as they come up, I'll either read them or Alicia will come on screen with the questions. So if anyone in the audience has any questions, please put them in the chat and I will ask them to our panel. And while people are thinking about putting their questions up, I'll move to one of the final questions for the panel. So Neelam, in your comments, you talked about recognition, and recognition matters. And another way of saying that is representation matters, because it's really important for women that are tech entrepreneurs, or women that are aspiring to be tech entrepreneurs or aspiring to be tech leaders, to actually see themselves represented in the leadership that they see. So my question for everyone on the panel is, us as women leaders in the innovation ecosystem, in the tech ecosystem, what can we do to help increase representation, to help increase recognition, to ensure that when the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs looks at the success stories in the ecosystem, they actually see themselves represented, whether it is women entrepreneurs, whether it is entrepreneurs from visible minorities or other underrepresented and underestimated groups. So maybe I'll start with you, Neelam.
Yeah, I think that's a fabulous question. I know For myself, I'm a woman, I'm a visible minority. And so in many of the meetings that I attend, I'm also in the tech sector, which is very male dominated. So, and I've often tell this story. I had to present at one point to our management board, and I sat down in the room and I was quite nervous. It was earlier in my career, and I looked around the room, and, there was about 20 people in the room. There were, 3 women, and I was the only person of color. And so right away, I almost defeated myself before I even started by doing that check. But I know, and I always remind myself of that moment. And as I move through my career within Loblaws, I try and get involved. I try to represent. I try to be involved in the committees, be involved in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. And I try to use, my voice and whatever platform I have to show that, I am here, I am a woman, I am a person of color, and I think others that are like me or that see me can achieve this same place that I have, or get to the same level or beyond even more. And so I think as women in this field and as a person of color in this field, I think it's really important for us to represent and for us to be vocal and for us to get involved so that others can see that and others can feel comfort in doing the same. And only as we have more and more of us being vocal and representing and being involved, can we create an environment where others are comfortable to do the same. And so I know for myself, I take every opportunity I can to participate in wonderful events like this, whether internal or external, and to make sure that I am representing and creating a forum where others feel comfortable to do the same.
Great, thank you. And we do have one question for the panel. And the question is, what advice would you give yourself just starting out? Does anyone want to jump in? So what advice would you give to yourself when you were just starting out? Lee.
Wow, to have that opportunity again, that would be amazing. I will tell you that I think the most important advice that I received later in life that I really hold on to is don't be so hard on yourself. I think I was harder on myself than anybody else ever was. And I made decisions based on fear. I didn't want to do certain things because I was afraid. And part of why I was afraid is often, I was maybe the only woman in the room. So when I think back, I think, wow, I don't know that I'd want to go back again, but if I had the opportunity, it would be just don't be so hard on yourself.
Anyone else on the panel?
I'd love to just add to that. So similar to what Lee said, one of my biggest we're all hard on ourselves. We're our biggest critic, right? And I think that's the one thing I would say is that don't be so hard on yourself and just go for it and use fear as a means of trying harder and evolving and getting yourself out there. Take advantage of the network that you have, build relationships, and it's okay if you say, I don't know, as long as you can admit it and find out what are those gaps that you have or the barriers that you have, and take the means to close that gap. I think that for myself, when I think about my past, I too was in a male-dominated field, and there were many moments where I was intimidated. There were many moments where I was also told not to speak. And I didn't let that stop me. I continued to go and I persevered, and I used those moments to try even harder and get to where I want. And I think in today's generation, with all the information that's so readily available at our fingertips, we should definitely take advantage of whatever it may be to help you get deeper in that space.
Maybe I'll add kind of one of the things I wish someone had given me as advice right when I was starting out, because it's something I learned later in my career, but it was the advice of own your ambition and see yourself as a leader right from the beginning. because you are a leader. And that piece speaks to many of the important kind of qualities that we've talked about in terms of that are important for women to succeed in tech. We've talked about networks, we've talked about confidence, we've talked about various supports, but really seeing yourself as the leader that you are right from the outset and owning your own ambition. So with that, we're coming to the end of the panel, and I want to thank all of the panelists for the breadth of the conversation that we've had. We hope that everyone who joined us today has gotten some very valuable insights from the women leaders that are on this panel. And I would also like to take a moment to recognize the women at the Ontario Centre of Innovation and at OneEleven, many of whom have had a hand in setting up today's panel, and to reiterate our commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion and the role it plays to ensure that OCI continues to work for improvements on this front. And so with that, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and to please follow us at OC Innovation or join our newsletter at www.oc-innovation.ca for the latest news about OCI and what's going on in the tech sector. And thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your International Women's Day. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.